You're only promised a certain amount of days on this earth. You're only promised a certain amount of moments that you have. Just know that the moment that you have, that you're feeling that way, are an indicator from your soul itself that you're meant for more.
Welcome to Stories of Creativity. I'm your host, Jo Vertis, and you're watching the fourth and final part of my interview with Skye Magus. You'll hear about Skye's innovative plans to collaborate with therapists to create video games that educate players about mental illness. Skye shares how learning about his creative abilities helped him understand himself, how he's different from others, and why his unique perspective is valuable. And you'll hear his advice to people who want to live a more adventurous creative life. I feel like what you're describing is you become profoundly impacted and changed as a person by the experience you had with this art form.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, you want to create that experience for someone else. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like my main reason for going to college isn't so that I can get into the field of video game making. I could have done that even without. But it is making it easier for me. And the whole reason that I'm even going to college in the first place and doing the whole video game BA and stuff is so that I can get into the field, get my foot in the door, get experience, get like 10 years worth of experience, go back to school, get my master's, make my own company. And when I make my own company, hire on to the staff licensed therapists that are well suited inside of like some of the most popular, but at the same time some of the most defining mental illnesses that people might not even know that they have, because the dialogue with talking to a therapist or dealing with a mental illness that you might not know you have is huge in America. Yeah. I don't know about the rest of the world, but definitely America. So I want to make video games that take that mental illness, whether you actually realize that they have it or not, inside of these defining stories, and take, pick a therapist's brains on what are some ways to overcome that? What are some ways to deal with that? What are some ways to become a more stable person if you have this mental illness? And what are some of the conditions that you have, so that I can put that inside of there, so that people that are walking around undiagnosed with like BPD or with like schizophrenia, bipolar, all of that, they might not even know that they have it until they play this game and they're like, I actually experienced some of those symptoms, or I experienced all of those symptoms. Is that what I have? And then the dialogue gets started.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I also plan on doing things like with having a whole bunch of therapists on payroll to like talk about what are the symptoms, what are the ways to overcome it, what are the things that you should do. I want to also implement into the game mechanics and ability systems of my games things that you wouldn't normally think about, but things that are like, ways of overcoming it. So for instance, meditation or breathing exercises or medication or whatever. And like, putting that inside of the game mechanics as a core. So that yeah.
That's phenomenal. Would there be a way to like actually get the players to practice breathing exercises and meditation practices?
Maybe not inside of a it's possible to do anything, to be honest, but like maybe not inside of like a AAA game that players want to play, because I doubt that they want to, like, every single time they choose a ability to meditate or do breathing exercises, you have to like the first way I could think of is like having a mini game where you have to like hit a certain mark in order to do the breathing exercise. but I doubt that they would want to do that. But at least including those into it, like meditation or like breathing exercises, yoga, exercise, journaling, whatever, as a mechanic and an ability system might, or even as just something that happens inside of the story itself, inside of a subtle way, might help inside of like a person being like, I actually have some of these symptoms, what the heck? And then maybe wanting to go talk to a therapist, and then the therapist gives them the same things that I have these therapists on call for, on staff for, these same things, and they're like, whoa, this game is so much deeper than I thought it was. Like,
that's cool. That's such an innovative idea. I love it.
Yeah, to answer your question, yes, there is a lot of things that have helped me intercorrelate with all of the other artistic things that I do.
Yeah, I hear you. Do you have any examples of a memorable creative experience when something happened in the course of working on a project that surprised you?
So many things. So many things. The very first one that comes to mind is a core memory that you just unlocked. Back when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, I didn't even do this because it was homework or anything like that. I just did this and I wanted to show the class. I wanted to show my teacher, which she was so impressed by it that she wanted me to show the class. I did a shoebox mural in which I did a whole bunch of 3D elements. I drew out these characters, put them on cardboard, and then cut out little places for them to be. So I made this whole 3D module over the weekend just because I wanted to. And I showed it to my teacher and she was so impressed with it, she wanted me to show the class. The class didn't get it, but the fact that she wanted me to show my work to the class gave me a certain spike of confidence where I was like, okay, so the things that I'm doing aren't useless. They can actually affect people. Cool. Nice. That's like the earliest thing that I can think of when it comes to like someone outside of my family being like, oh my God, your artwork is so good. A teacher wanting me to show it to the class was like, okay, cool. So yeah, that was just a project that I did over the weekend for my own personal satisfaction. And I was so impressed with it and I was so happy with it that I showed my teacher. Things like that tended to, over the course of my years, tended to make me reconfirm that I do have something of worth for people to see. Because it's so easy when you're in the arts to like feel like your work isn't good enough because you get in your head. But to have other people reconfirm it for you kind of like gives you the push that you need to be like, okay, keep going. So true. And I think that was the first time that like someone outside of my family was like giving me that. Has creativity helped you understand who you are? In some ways. Understanding that I can draw at the drop of a hat and then put it down, or understanding that I can make an album, make a bunch of songs, or understanding that I'm just artistic AF anyway, has helped me to understand that I see the world differently and that my view isn't necessarily a bad thing. It isn't necessarily it's something that's different and people might benefit from. And I think in all of my practice and all of the life that I've lived thus far, it's helped me to understand that I have a very different take on life. And that in itself is something that might benefit the world or might change the world's thinking in just the slightest of ways. And that's an amazing thing to have. It's a huge responsibility when you have it to share it with the world. And I, for the longest time, didn't want to, but I'm now at the point where I'm 35 going on 36, and I'm just kind of like, no, the world definitely needs different takes. The more I watch movies, the more I watch anime, read things in the world that's going on, read the arts and all of that, the more I realize that it's the ones that see things differently that ultimately hit factors in people that they couldn't even explain until they saw your work. And that's kind of what I want to be. I want to be a pioneer of something like that.
Well said. Beautiful. Do you ever find yourself needing inspiration? And if so, what do you do to get it?
Define what you mean by needing inspiration.
I mean, I guess getting a little creatively blocked where you want to make something and you don't have any ideas. You don't have any inspiration.
All the time.
Really?
Time. There are plenty of times where I have wanted to sit down and do something. Just last night was one of them where I wanted to, I was trying to figure out what to do, whether I should play video games, whether I should draw, whether I should write something. I didn't want to do my homework. I kept sitting down to do that and I was blocked on that. So I was like, all right, let's do something creative and productive. I ended up playing video games. And in the blockages that I've had in my life, I have learned the crucial factor that no matter what you do, you are not going to be able to unblock yourself. It's only going to be time that unblocks it. You can, do mantras, meditate, try and go out for inspiration, but the inspiration isn't going to come until it comes. And it might not be that day. It might not even be that month. And I've learned for myself that if the inspiration isn't coming, that's okay. Giving yourself the grace to know that I can't create right now. I might as well absorb as much creativity from others as I can until I get an idea is just as important. Because there could be plenty of reasons why you can't create. It could be that you're stressed out about life and you're just not willing to accept it. It could be that you're trying to be creative to get away from your stresses. It could be you're depressed. It could be that the ideas aren't coming because you don't realize that you're stuck inside of a plateau. Like there's too many different variations of why you aren't able to create at that exact moment. And there's no way to like hit your head against the wall until it comes. The only thing that you can do is just say, okay, I can't create right now, and just like enjoy something else that nourishes you until you can.
I think that's totally valid, and really appreciate everything you said there. I think there's definitely a time when your creativity needs a rest. Like you're supposed to let the fields rest in between growing seasons, and I think that's really valid. And I kind of want to push back on you a little bit, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Maybe I should put it this way. I'd like to invite you to take one of those times when you feel that way and try this creative process that I came up with and actually shared in my last video. I really would love to find out if it works for you in those kinds of moments, and it's really simple and quick. So that would just be kind of a fun experiment to see what happens when you try working that way, when you feel blocked and like creativity isn't accessible to you. I think it could work for everyone, but I don't know.
I'm absolutely open to anything. So yeah.
Cool. Oh, thank you for all of this. This is so inspiring and so beautiful. I just love how you adventure in so many different areas and follow that urge of your soul to go to new places with your creativity.
Thank you. I learned early on that I couldn't be anybody else. I had to be myself. And so early on inside of my childhood, I realized that if I wasn't marching to my own drum, then what was I doing? And so I've kind of let that guide me my whole life. And so it's not even, it's second nature to me at this point. So like, I don't really know what life is like without marching to my own drum and living the way that I live. But like, it's always kind of interesting getting perspective on how I live my life, because I don't necessarily see it myself, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there any advice that you would like to offer to people who want to be more adventurous with their creativity, who maybe want to try something that they haven't explored yet, or maybe just want to be more adventurous in life in general?
You're only promised a certain amount of days on this earth. You're only promised a certain amount of moments that you have. And you don't know how long it is. You've forgotten. As soon as you step into your vessel, you forgot all of the crucial things that you should know. You're just living at the base level of what a human is. And it could be any moment. You could round a corner and that's the end of you. You could cross the street and that's the end of you. You could skydive and that's the end of you. You could, wake up and then be so stressed out you have a heart attack. Like, whatever the case is, you're only promised so many moments on this earth. And if you feel that you are not living it to the fullest that you can, just know that the moment that you have, that you're feeling that way, are an indicator from your soul itself that you're meant for more. And if you're meant for more, you can always put it off till tomorrow. I'm a master at that. I've done that for so long, but you never know what the next moment's gonna bring. So if you want to be adventurous, if you want to learn cello, if you want to, travel the world, if you want to, have a more adventurous life, stop telling yourself down the road and just tell yourself, why not now? The Alchemist has the greatest instance of this, in which it states that Santiago, the main character, the protagonist, is starting to realize that a decision is really the starting point of everything. And it's you placing your foot down into a river of life and getting swept away into a current that leads you to places you never thought that you would. It really starts with just making a decision. And by making a decision with all of your being, it's the difference between being inside of an abusive relationship and deciding that you're better than that. There might be a long lag in between those, but you will inevitably end up on the other side better. It's deciding that you want to be this, that, or the other, and then over a length of time, you end up there. A decision is the key factor to getting swept up in that current. It's the first step, and the first step will lead towards many more. So if you want to truly be more adventurous and live life to the fullest, then decide that's what you want and watch where that takes you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Great advice. Well, I think that's a perfect place to wind up this conversation.
Okay.
And I'd love to have another one sometime. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you.
No problem.
Thank you so much for watching, and a big thank you to Skye. I hope you have a wonderful day with your creativity, my friend. See you next time.